It's time. My exclusive dream flavor, salty chocolate caramel, is back, and it is at its lowest price ever. Shop now for up to 50% off before it's gone. Before I tried Beam, I would literally go to sleep and just stare at the ceiling all night long. I could never stay asleep. I could never fall asleep quickly. I would try endless sleep aids. I would still wake up groggy. I was just miserable. And I literally tried everything. That's why when my husband introduced me to Beam, I was just like blown away. It was like the best thing in the world because I finally was falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up well rested. It was like, and look, I know I've been talking to you guys about Beam for literally, I think, a year now, but so many of you have tried it and so many of you have said that you love it too. I also will just say, the proof is in the science because I wear an Oura ring and I track my sleep every single night. And on the nights when I don't drink Beam, my sleep scores are in the toilet, but on the nights where I do drink Beam, they are back where they need to be. I make it about 30 minutes before I want to fall asleep and then boom, it is lights out and I stay asleep. It is the best. It's like this sweet little treat right before bed. It's only 15 calories, 0 added sugar, and it tastes like hot chocolate. It is just so good. So now's the time, guys. My exclusive flavor is back and it's up to 50% off. Now, there is limited stock, so don't wait and go grab your salty chocolate caramel dream by clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on the screen so that you can shop Beam's early access to the cyber sale. This offer will not last, so don't miss out. There's also no code needed. Now's the time. Don't sleep on it, but then you will sleep on it if you get what I mean. Thank me later. It is the best.
Firefly, how short is life? I dreamt we had more than 20. Lay me in the ocean. Lullabies I've used my time. Lend me to the ocean. Sing my songs when I'm gone. This is life, white noise in the night. Ashes rise, ashes rise. Close your eyes, close your eyes. Taste the noise in the night. Ashes rise, ashes rise.
I just continue to be stunned that you sealed areas so that you could make sure the smell of decaying human flesh wouldn't be noticed, that you had parties and ordered Chinese food with 2 people that you had brutally murdered lying upstairs.
I don't think Lady deserved it. I was so tired of dealing with my family. It felt like I didn't even have a family.
I feel like it's pretty normal for most teenagers to go through a rebellious phase, one where they test the limits to see what they can get away with and what kind of rise they can get out of authority figures. Even if you don't have kids, you always hear about how it can be confrontational and emotionally draining once they become teenagers. There may be tears and slammed doors, and it can feel like the relationship has permanently entered a new place, where all you really do is fight. But the thing is, it really is just a phase, and it usually will blow over. As horrible as it might be in certain moments, it's not the end of the world. Even when people say stupid things like, "I wish you were dead," I mean, they don't really mean it. But in today's case, angsty teen isn't really the right description. We are going to be talking about acts so heinous that you almost don't have the words to accurately describe what went down. This is one of the more disturbing cases due to just how personal the crime is and the overall lack of emotions that are displayed. Cassie Bjorge was born on March 18, 2000. Not much is known about her biological father. She grew up with her mom, Amanda Sterling, and with her stepdad. They lived in Duluth, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta with a population of just a little over 30,000 people. It's considered one of the best places to live in Georgia, and it's overall a pretty safe place to live. As a child, Cassie was just like any other kid. She was happy and enjoyed spending time with her grandparents, but as she grew older, things started changing. She became really rebellious and very disrespectful to any authority figure, whether it was her mom, a teacher, it didn't matter. She just didn't like being told what to do, and she definitely did not respond well to punishment. By the time that she was a teenager, Cassie had long, thick, dark hair, these big brown eyes, and this kind of wide-eyed, youthful, innocent look to her. Except in reality, she was anything but innocent. She would get in trouble for skipping school, for underage drinking, for marijuana use, shoplifting, and even domestic assault. Now, it's not clear what led to the domestic assault charge, but obviously a lot of her behavior got her in trouble with the police. But she did not care. She continued to go down a pretty wild and dangerous road. It's not totally clear what motivated her to act out the way that she did. She didn't seem to have her dad around, and at some point in school she did befriend the wrong crowd. So those two things mixed with very little parental guidance or structure at home could be what catapulted Cassie in the direction that she ended up going. Basically, her mom Amanda was at her wit's end with Cassie. She didn't know what else she could do. All of her usual punishments weren't working. The punishments like taking away the phone, grounding her, stuff like that. So in 2015, when Cassie was 15 years old, her mom Amanda enlisted the help of her parents, Wendy and Randall. Wendy and Randall really wanted to help their granddaughter, and Wendy thought that she knew what the problem was. She felt like Cassie was allowed to just do whatever she wanted at home, and that she didn't have any real rules in place. So Wendy came up with a pretty drastic solution to this. She figured that having a new environment, a new school, and a new place to live would be just what the doctor had ordered. So Cassie would come and live with them. Her grandparents' home was in Lawrenceville, Georgia, not too far away from where Cassie was living. It was about 20 minutes away. Wendy and Randall were both 63 years old, and they were both pillars of their community, and they were known to live a rather quiet life. They had been married for many years, and they had 2 adult children, Cassie's mom Amanda, and also a son named Christopher. As a child, Cassie used to love spending time with her grandparents, and she even spent a big chunk of her childhood living at their house. But now, by 2016, Cassie didn't have that same warm and fuzzy feeling that she had felt towards them as a little girl. And by this point, Wendy and Randall had full custody of Cassie, and they had very strict rules that they had enforced for her. Rules that are pretty typical for a teenager to follow, like no drinking, no smoking, no skipping school, stuff like that. But you see, Cassie hadn't followed any rules before living with her grandparents, and she was not about to start. When Wendy eventually caught Cassie drinking, she confronted her about breaking one of the main rules. Cassie became belligerent and ended up throwing a glass at Wendy. The glass missed her, but just barely. Cassie wasn't happy that her mom had shipped her off to go live with her grandparents, but her actions went beyond just a pissed-off, angsty teen. From the time that Cassie started living with her grandparents in October 2015 to March 2017, the local police were called to their home 31 times. And spoiler alert, none of the times were due to something that Wendy or Randall did. It was all due to Cassie. 18 of the calls had to deal with Cassie running away. Many were from concerned neighbors and dealt with suspicions about illegal drugs and domestic disputes as well. One time, Cassie even assaulted Wendy, her own grandmother. There were also reports that she had attacked Randall at one point, breaking one of his ribs. Every time that Cassie would run away, her grandparents would create posters and they would share that she was missing on Facebook, because by that point, Cassie ran away so much that the police had stopped investing much time into her. She always came back. It was a waste of their resources. Still, her grandparents didn't seem to lose hope that they could just get through to her. They still believed she could change. I feel like most people would have given up on Cassie by that point, but they continued to push through, out of just sheer love, I suppose. However, it was taking a toll on them. Wendy and Randall's relationship with their daughter, Cassie's mom Amanda, was also deteriorating. This was due to the custody arrangement and the turmoil with Cassie. Things just were not going well. Cassie dropped out of school and she enrolled in online classes, but she didn't really do much with that. And on top of that, she was on probation due to all of her run-ins with the law. By March of 2017, Cassie also had a boyfriend, 19-year-old Johnny Ryder. They hadn't been together too long. Johnny had only recently been released from jail. See, back in October of 2016, he had been arrested and charged with breaking into cars and also credit card theft, but he was released on bail the following month. So they had only been together for 3 months, and they had actually met through one of Cassie's ex-boyfriends who was friends with Johnny. Apparently, the three of them all hung out together once, and then Cassie and Johnny, they hit it off, and they began dating a little after the new year in 2017. Now, Wendy and Randall, Cassie's grandparents, they did not like Johnny. They didn't like that he had a record, and they were really trying their best to keep Cassie from having any negative influences in her life. So they ended up forbidding Johnny from coming into their home, which really only made him that much more enticing to Cassie. A little before midnight on April 1st, 2017, Wendy was physically and mentally exhausted with everything that Cassie had put her and Randall through. See, Cassie was missing, yet again, and Wendy was beginning to wonder if her granddaughter was beyond help at that point, or at least any intervention that she and Randall could offer for her. So she texted her sister-in-law Sylvia saying, "I'm going to bed soon. Maybe tomorrow will be better. All I can do is hope for the best and expect the worst. It shouldn't be this hard for any of us." And I mean, you have to feel bad for Wendy and Randall at this point. They were just trying to help their granddaughter, who they loved dearly. But Cassie wasn't seeming like just your typical run-of-the-mill bad kid. As the days went on, no one heard from Cassie, which wasn't too surprising. But what was strange was that nobody was hearing from Wendy or Randall either. They weren't answering their phone calls, any text messages, and Wendy wasn't on Facebook. It was like radio silence all of a sudden, out of nowhere. So people in the family started to get increasingly worried because unlike Cassie, Wendy and Randall were not ones to just drop off the face of the earth. So family members contacted the local police department and they asked them to do a welfare check. Officers went to their house around April 6th. They wanted to see what was going on. And when they got there was no sign of anything suspicious from the outside. However, neither Randall or Wendy answered the door. The following day, officers returned once again, check once more. But like the previous day, there was no answer at the door. By April 8th, another family member, Wendy and Randall's daughter-in-law, Sarah, she contacted the county police department. She said that she was worried about Wendy and Randall. The police department let Sarah know that they were already aware of the situation. But then they told Sarah something that wasn't reassuring at all. The police had listed Wendy and Randall as missing. Later that same day, around 8:30 p.m., an officer responded to a call in Lawrenceville at 1685 Rambling Woods Drive. It was Johnny's house, and that's where his mom and his 2 sisters lived. The call was about his sister Mindy and her boyfriend Kevin, who had just been attacked. When the officers arrived, the first thing they noticed was that both the door to the house and the garage were open, and inside the garage was a Mazda Tribute with its doors open. After going into the house, they noticed that there was blood wiped on one of the walls, and they also noticed the odor of pepper spray. Not only that, but there was a .22 rifle, a machete, and a pellet gun in the living room. So the cops kept going through the house, and other than the stuff they had found, it was pretty quiet. That's when Tomoko showed up, Johnny and Mindy's mother. She then gave them a full rundown of what had happened. She said that Johnny had hit his sister with a baseball bat, and that the Mazda outside was actually Cassie's car, not theirs. Tomoko had taken Mindy to the hospital, so one of the officers headed that way to get more information from Mindy. Mindy said that she and Kevin had gotten home that night, but when they went into the house, they found Johnny and Cassie sitting on the couch in the living room just smoking weed. First, Mindy gave Johnny a hard time about smoking inside the house, but as it turns out, that wasn't the worst of it. Because when she went upstairs to her bedroom, she found that it had been completely trashed. Somebody had rooted through all of her stuff, and things were also damaged. Not only that, but she told the officers that some things seemed to have been stolen as well, although she didn't say what. Anyway, Mindy said that she confronted Johnny about the room, and the two of them began fighting. She said, "Johnny, I'm going to call the police if you don't tell me what's going on." And the two of them began going back and forth, and then Johnny left the room for a split second, and he came back spraying bear spray at Mindy and Kevin. Now, if you don't know, bear spray is kind of similar to pepper spray, but it is far more potent and it sprays at a further distance. It's also illegal to use on people. Just like the name says, it's meant to ward off a bear. So after spraying them, then Johnny put Kevin in a chokehold that was so tight that he could barely breathe, and he yelled for Cassie to come hit him with a baseball bat, which Cassie did. She began doing it multiple times to both Kevin and Mindy. Then Johnny began punching Kevin in the face so hard that one of the blows actually chipped one of Kevin's front teeth. Johnny and Cassie were not holding back in their attack, but somehow Mindy was able to get the bat from Cassie. But Johnny quickly snagged it back and tried to hit Kevin again. Then at that point, maybe because Mindy and Kevin were not giving up without a fight, Cassie and Johnny took off and they fled the scene, but not in the Mazda that they had come in. They left in Mindy's car. So not only did Johnny and Cassie violently attack Johnny's sister and her boyfriend, but they also then took Mindy's car. So the county police put out a warrant for Johnny and labeled Mindy's silver 2004 Nissan Xterra as stolen. Both Mindy and Kevin had some pretty serious injuries from their attack. Kevin's front tooth was chipped pretty badly, and Mindy needed 7 staples to close a wound on her head. They were also dealing with the aftermath of being sprayed in the face with bear spray. On top of all of the physical injuries, they were also pretty shaken up, and understandably. Not only had they just been violently attacked, but they had been attacked by one of their own family members. Mindy told the officer that she still had the baseball bat in her mom's car, but she had no idea where Johnny had gotten it. She had never seen it before. One of the officers back at the station became aware of the incident and learned that the Mazda that was parked inside the garage with the door open was registered to Randall. Now that was obviously a major red flag because remember, nobody had seen or heard from Wendy or Randall in a week. So why was their car there? So the 2 officers went back to do yet again another welfare check on them. And again, nobody answered the doors. There were also no lights on inside the house other than a small light above the stove in the kitchen. There was an SUV parked in the garage, but a neighbor confirmed that the family had 2 cars. So at that point, the officers were very concerned for the safety of Wendy and Randall. The house was locked, so officers had to use a window breaking tool to get inside through one of the windows at the front of the house. Upon entering, everything looked and sounded normal enough. It was quiet, a bit eerie, but otherwise normal. Except there were reports of some pretty foul smells going on. As the officers continued going through the lower level of the house, they noticed food that was starting to rot that had been sitting out in the kitchen. Then, when they got to the living room, that's when things really started to seem out of sorts. While the rest of the downstairs seemed pretty clean and tidy, the living room was a complete mess. There was a mason jar that had a little bit of marijuana left inside of it, and the room itself smelled like burnt marijuana. But again, there was no sign of Wendy or Randall. So the officers went upstairs, and when they did, they instantly noticed something strange. The door to one of the rooms had what looked like white putty all along the edge of the door where it met the frame. The room had been sealed off with caulking material. They continued down the hall, and then they found another room, sealed off with caulk. So they went further down the hall until they finally found a bedroom that was not sealed off. The room was Wendy's bedroom. Apparently she and Randall used separate bedrooms, and her bedroom was a mess. The bed was all disheveled, and it also had blood on the pillows and the sheets. Pieces of duct tape were scattered on the ground, and out in the hall there were a bunch of tubes of that caulking. So it was time to pry open the doors that had been caulked shut. After some force, the door across from Wendy's room finally opened. It was a bathroom, and tragically, the officers found Wendy lying dead on the bathroom tile. She was in just a shirt and her underwear. Her arms had been bound behind her back with duct tape, and she was lying on her back. She was surrounded by lots of pieces of duct tape and a lot of blood. She had been beaten, stabbed, and her throat was cut. There were blood spatters on the side of the tub and on a linen closet that sat against a wall near the bathroom door. Next to the toilet was a pair of scissors, presumably used to cut that duct tape. Next, the officers forced open the other sealed door. It led to Randall's bedroom, where they found Randall, who was also dead. Like Wendy, he had been beaten, stabbed, and his throat was also cut. There was a lot of blood on the bed, mostly near Randall's head and also on the wall behind the bed. Randall was lying on his back, similar to how Wendy was found, but it almost looked like he was asleep. He was lying with one leg hanging over the side of the bed, and his arms were bent at the elbows with his hands on his chest, and he was wearing only his underwear. The room was a mess, just like Wendy's. Drawers were open, clothing was all over the place, and upon further inspection of the room, not only was it completely ransacked, but on the wall behind the bed, there were 2 separate bloody handprints. And I think it's important to note just how much blood truly was at this crime scene. The police report said that the bed was literally saturated with blood. There were blood spatters on the furniture and even the ceiling. There were bloody shoe prints on the bedding, as well as a partial shoe print on the bathroom tile next to Wendy. And at the risk of sounding repetitive, there was just a lot of blood everywhere. Something absolutely horrific had happened to Wendy and Randall. This house was a bloodbath. As the officers continued clearing the home, they noticed the front door had been sealed shut with that caulking material as well. Again, just so strange. They weren't sure if it was a preventative measure to keep the odor in, to keep people out, or both. The officers were made aware that Cassie lived with her grandparents, but she was nowhere to be found in the house. So the officers secured the home with yellow and black crime scene tape, and they got to work. Now the next step was figuring out what exactly happened to Wendy and Randall, and who did it to them. The police soon figured out that somebody had been using Wendy's phone, and they had been pretending to be her after April 1st, the day that Wendy had sent that text message to her sister-in-law, Sylvia. Sylvia told police that after that final text, she received more text messages from Wendy, but it wasn't how Wendy usually texted. She provided the police station with screenshots of their conversations. Whoever was pretending to be Wendy didn't do a great job either, because they were using words that she never used. They were also using emojis, something that Wendy would never do. Now, Sylvia lived in California. Otherwise, she would have been showing up herself to check on Wendy and her brother. So given all that the police knew at that point, including Cassie and Johnny's involvement with Mindy and Kevin, the police station requested the phone records of Wendy, Randall, Cassie, and Johnny, because they wanted to try and get the most recent information that they could as to the messages on the phones and their last location. But they soon found that only one of those 4 phones was still activated, Wendy's. Police were able to figure out that Wendy's last phone ping was off of a cell tower around McGinnis Ferry Road and Buford Highway, about 45 minutes or so from Lawrenceville, but it was only around 20 minutes north of Cassie's old stomping grounds in Duluth. The information was sent over to that jurisdiction's police station, the Suwannee Police Department, and officers began searching the area. Police were now on the hunt for Cassie and Johnny. They knew who they were looking for. That Sunday on April 9th, they found Mindy's car, and it was parked in front of the McGinnis Ferry apartment complex in Suwannee, Georgia. So now, with this tip, the police had figured out where Johnny and Cassie were likely hiding out. Now that they knew where Johnny and Cassie probably were, they staked out the apartment complex, waiting for one or both of them to walk outside to the car to confirm their suspicions. Around 9 o'clock in the morning that Sunday, Johnny was spotted leaving the apartment complex and heading to the car. Once he grabbed something out of the car, he went back inside the apartment. One of the investigators was able to get a photo of both Johnny and Cassie to confirm that they were the suspects in question. Now, because it was an apartment complex, investigators had to identify the exact apartment number that Johnny and Cassie were going into. They had a pretty good idea, but they needed to confirm it. So they contacted the assistant manager of the complex to get the exact location. She was able to tell them that the apartment was number 818, and the tenant of the apartment was Linda Spencer. Linda lived there with her 2 older children. So now that the police had the exact location, they applied for a search warrant, which was quickly approved due to the probable cause. Shortly after, the police called in help from the SWAT team who surrounded the complex. At 11 a.m., using a megaphone, contact was made with Linda and her 2 children, Jacob and Anna, and they all peacefully exited the building. They said that Cassie and Johnny were inside, and they weren't planning on coming out. Cassie refusing to listen to authorities? I mean, are we surprised at this point? Not so much. Anna spoke to the police, telling them that Johnny was her brother's friend and that he and Cassie randomly showed up sometime around 9:30 or 10 p.m. the night before. She didn't actually know who Cassie was. Jacob had known Johnny since the 6th grade, but had only seen him a handful of times since he had gotten out of jail. So to recap, basically an hour after fleeing his sister's house, Johnny had showed up at a friend's place to hide out. Anna had been completely caught off guard by the entire situation. She said that the night before when Johnny showed up, he showed up at their front door with just shorts on. No shoes, no shirt, just a towel around his neck. He also looked like he had been in a fight. He had red marks all over his face. He gave Anna and her family a sob story, crying about how he was having bad family problems and that his mom even pepper sprayed him. And that basically, long story short, he and Cassie needed a place to stay. Anna said that after they let the two of them in, she went to bed, and she was woken up by the noise of the SWAT team outside using that loudspeaker, calling for them to come outside. She didn't hesitate, and she left, but she said that as she was leaving, Johnny gave her a hug and said that she should go. At that point, she had no idea what was going on, because Johnny and Cassie hadn't said anything about what they had gone into when they had showed up. They just cleaned themselves up, and they went to sleep. The scene outside of the apartment complex was now intensifying, to say the least. Cassie and Johnny were refusing to exit the building, and a crowd was now growing. Officers got in touch with Johnny's mom to let her in on what was happening, and she sent them a voicemail that Johnny had just left for her using Wendy's phone. It was almost as if Johnny was trying to get his affairs in order and was planning on doing something to himself. Because in the voicemail, he told his mom that he was dying and that he was sorry. He said to tell his sister Mindy and Kevin that he was sorry and that he was just evil. Around noon, the cops deployed one of those robots that's used to go into possibly hazardous situations. It forced its way into the apartment to take a look around, and police were able to see that Johnny and Cassie had barricaded themselves in the bathroom. After ramming down the door, the robot spotted Johnny and Cassie lying on the floor of the bathroom. They were surrounded by blood, and both of them looked to be unconscious. So at that point, police and the SWAT team had deemed the apartment safe to go inside of, and they rushed in to see if Johnny and Cassie were still alive. They administered first aid to both of them. Both of them had slits on their wrists, and they had lost a ton of blood. But they were both still alive. So they were both taken to the local medical center in Lawrenceville. Neither of them were in any condition to speak with officers just yet, and Cassie was prepped for surgery. While Cassie and Johnny were recovering, authorities seized different items and pieces of evidence from the apartment where they had been found. They seized Wendy's phone, the knives that they had used to cut their wrists, Mindy's car keys, and even more. And at that point, authorities had both the suspects that they were looking for in the attack on Mindy and Kevin, and they were planning on arresting both Cassie and Johnny for that incident. But they didn't know for sure if Cassie and Johnny had murdered Randall and Wendy. Later that evening, after detaining Cassie and Johnny, the police received an anonymous tip. The tip was telling them that Cassie and Johnny were the ones who killed Randall and Wendy. And according to the tipster, here's the reason the murder happened. Cassie didn't want her grandparents telling the cops that she had been using drugs, because she was worried if the cops found out, she would be sent to jail. The following day, on April 10th, Johnny was in stable condition, stable enough to speak with an officer. But as he was being read his Miranda rights, he decided that he wanted an attorney. So the officer stopped the interview and then left. Back at Wendy and Randall's house, police did some more investigating to try and determine when exactly these murders took place. There were a ton of packages that had been delivered to the house, so police tracked some of them to see when they had been ordered. Like one package had been ordered on April 1st at 10:09 p.m. and another package had been delivered on April 4th at 1:01 p.m. They also found a receipt from a Chinese restaurant that was dated April 5th, which was a few days after Wendy and Randall were thought to have gone missing. The police knew that Wendy was last heard from on April 1st. She was up late that evening texting Sylvia about Cassie. And it looked like she was also doing some online shopping, which gave police an idea of when she was last alive. Investigators also got in contact with the Chinese restaurant, China Delight. This was from that receipt that they had found. The employee said that the man who delivered the food to the home that evening only spoke Mandarin, so an employee had to come and translate what the driver was saying. The driver said he didn't remember many details about that night because it had been raining and he just wanted to deliver the food as quickly as possible. But he did say that he remembered the people he delivered it to were 2 teenagers, a teenage girl and a black man. Except Johnny was Asian, not black. However, even with a discrepancy that huge, police felt pretty confident that it was Cassie and Johnny who received the food. They were teenagers, and the driver could have made a mistake about Johnny's race. It was dark, it was raining outside. And Wendy had a rule about not letting Johnny in the house, so it made sense that at that point she was already probably dead. All that gave the police an idea of the time frame that Wendy and Randall were probably murdered. That time frame put it sometime between April 1st in the evening and April 4th in the afternoon. One of the officers involved in the investigation had a stepdaughter named Tristine Lynn. And on April 11th, Tristine spoke with a detective to say that she had been friends with Cassie for a while, and she got a FaceTime call from her back on April 5th. Cassie had called to let Tristine know that Wendy and Randall were, quote, out of town, and they were supposed to be gone for possibly 2 weeks. Cassie said she wanted to throw a party, and she invited her. Tristine told the detective that she didn't go to the party, but she noticed a black girl in the background of the phone call who she didn't recognize. Now back to the investigation. It's now April 11th, and Cassie is still in the hospital. Around 5 p.m., an officer went to speak with her. She was now in stable condition, and she said that she was up for an interview. Now, she did a very lengthy video interview with detectives later on with a lot more details, and we will get into that. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what she said in the hospital. She discussed how she and her grandparents had been butting heads for a while, and that Wendy was on the verge of kicking her out of the house, so she ran off to stay with a friend. Then, after Cassie was read her Miranda rights, she agreed to continue the conversation. First, she talked about the attack on Mindy. She said at that point she was staying at Johnny's house when all of a sudden his mom went nuts, pepper spraying both of them. Afterward, she said that they went to a Publix grocery store, they bought milk, and they went over to a friend's house. But as she talked, she was leaving out a lot of the details that police already knew. So the detective asked her about hitting Mindy. Cassie said she did hit Mindy, but only because Mindy attacked her first. And she also admitted that Johnny did hit Kevin and had also gone into Mindy's room looking for money. But she was downplaying the severity of the injuries that Mindy and Kevin suffered, injuries that the officers obviously already knew about. Then, finally, the officers got to Wendy and Randall's murder. What happened? Was she responsible? Cassie said that she met up with Johnny at Peachtree Ridge Park the day before the murder because she was having problems with her grandparents and she just couldn't take it anymore. So instead of maybe, counseling or moving out, she decided to hatch a plan with Johnny to murder her grandparents. Cassie said that Johnny had asked her if she was afraid to die. She answered no. She said that Johnny had suggested that they could be like Bonnie and Clyde together, which Cassie apparently happily agreed to since she loved that movie. As for the crime itself, she said that Johnny took care of her grandfather while she, quote, handled her grandmother. Handled, a direct quote. So yes, Cassie was fully admitting everything. She admitted to pretending to be Wendy, texting other people. She said that she and Johnny even had a plan to wreak even more havoc. They planned to kill Johnny's parents and Cassie's mom next. But something with that plan had gone wrong. She also said that she and Johnny truly thought that they were going to get away with everything, and they had hatched a plan to run off to Florida. After this harrowing and horrible confession, the following day on April 12th, Cassie was now in good enough condition to be released from the hospital, so she was sent to the county police headquarters where she was interviewed further. On the way to the station, Cassie said that she was hungry, and in an attempt to make her feel like they were on her side, the officers ended up pulling through a McDonald's, letting her get whatever she wanted. So the beginning of this interview started out pretty casual. It was almost like three friends were just sitting down having lunch together.
So what TV shows you been watching there?
Well,
I think yesterday you had on, was it that fishing show?
yeah, I was watching Deadliest Catch.
Ooh.
Love that.
I was watching a lot of Family Guy and the Cleveland Show.
I'm not down with it.
I'm not down with it.
I mean, it was
I like
just
him as
on.
I like him as a character in Family Guy, but I don't like him on his own show.
Yeah, it was just on. There's nothing else on, so I just watched that. What else did I watch? I watched sort of like, you know what NCIS is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was something sort of like that. I don't know what it was called.
You like that show?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Was it isn't there a comedy one? I thought there's like a comedy one that they have out now.
No.
Okay, I don't watch much TV.
He watches sports.
Oh, cool.
Oh, see, we told you.
Well, you have been in a hospital and you're eating hospital food, so.
This makes me so disappointed.
I don't know. She said she could eat 2 McChickens, and
Yeah.
she barely made it through. What is it, a quarter past?
Those hospital food like was messing me
You
up.
did talk a lot of smack though.
I can't eat this whole thing.
I'm not gonna make
I don't
you.
want to get
yeah.
you sick.
I'm not gonna make you throw it up.
Yeah, I talked to Johnny a couple days ago, and just talking to him, I think she definitely was crazy. So
Is he okay?
yeah, he's fine. So
Is
he
he-
sends his regards and all that stuff. So
Is he doing okay? Was like,
no, he's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually is better off than you. You know, they weren't that deep or anything. So he didn't.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I could have sworn he did worse than me because I remember when we were in the bathroom, because he did it with me
Mhm.
too. He kept going and I kept telling him to stop. So
Yeah, his maybe this tougher skin. I don't really know.
Okay.
So I guess let's start from scratch about what happened, starting from when you ran away. I guess is that the 31st? Do you remember, or 28th or something like that?
I don't really I didn't really run away. My grandma like kicked me out.
Okay.
Cause like this is what happened. Like I was chilling with Johnny and my other friend Sabrina, and I came home because it was time for curfew.
Mhm.
Because I didn't want to violate my probation. So I came home, and my grandpa was asleep, and my grandma got really mad at me, and she was like saying like, oh, if you don't like it here, we're just gonna find somewhere else for you to stay. And she just said that out of the blue. Like she just got really mad for some reason. And so I was just like, if you're gonna find another place for me to stay, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna find somewhere else to go. So
As the interview went on and became more serious, Cassie continued talking to the detectives, trying to paint the narrative that the murder of her grandparents was all Johnny's idea. The night of the murders, Johnny and Cassie parked down the street from Wendy and Randall's house. They waited outside until they saw the lights go out. Cassie knew that her grandparents went to bed kind of late, so she and Johnny waited until after midnight. Then they snuck into the house through the back door, and they quietly went to the bottom of the stairs. Then they waited, listening, to make sure that Wendy and Randall were asleep. Once they were sure, they went upstairs with a backpack which contained gloves and duct tape, while Cassie carried a tire iron with her. Then they barged into the bedrooms. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Cassie said that she went after her grandmother, and Johnny went after Randall. But the way that Cassie describes this whole ordeal, it is absolutely bone-chilling. She gave the detectives a play-by-play of everything that happened.
at first, it wasn't my idea at first.
Mm-hmm. How did you even get? I guess what was said. How did you even bring up? What was the context?
He first asked me, "Are you afraid to die?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said no. And then I asked him, "Are you afraid to die?" And he said no. And he was just talking about how we could like run away together, that kind of like dream. And he asked me, he was like, "Would you kill your grandparents?" And I kind of like hesitated for a minute. And I was like, "Why?" And he was just like, "I don't know. I mean, 'cause he knows probably everything that I've been through with all of my family, and he understands that, you know, like, all I really wanted to do was just kind of get away from everything, kind of just move on with myself. Like, I wasn't having a good relationship with my grandparents. Like, it started getting really bad, you know, like, that I got a charge from them because, you know, like, I fought them, you know. I might have broken, like, my grandpa's ribs when, you know, for that charge for simple assault and simple battery, you know. And it just got really worse. We just kept arguing all the time, and then, I don't know, I guess things, like, just seemed different. They didn't look at me the same anymore. Like, they didn't, I don't know, it's like, the vibe that they have was, like, they didn't really know what to do. They didn't really know, like, how to, like, be around me, I guess. They didn't really know how to talk to me. So I didn't really know, like, how to talk to them either. So it was just a really hard,
There's
like,
a big age difference too, so. you know.
yeah. And then, you know, before all of the stuff happened with my parents, you know, like, they treated me so much differently, you know. They had, you know, they trusted me, you know, I could have done anything at their house, you know, like, I was free, and I loved going over there, and it wasn't like I was actually, like, living there, so, you know, because I was with my parents, so I never, like, ever had that feeling. But even though I did live with them before, I don't know, it kind of just, like, changed throughout, like, the whole time that I was with them. So, I don't know, I kind of just,
Grew apart.
yeah.
When you guys met at the park, did he ever go over the actual plan on how you guys would do it or anything like that, or like what was that about?
Well, I mean, we were just trying to figure out how to get money, and because he said that he might have had a warrant, and I didn't know if I had a warrant because, you know, my grandma kicked me out, and then she did the same thing that my mom did. Like, my mom would kick me out, then, like, a couple days later, she would call the cops saying that I ran away when I didn't. Like, sometimes, like, she would physically force me out of the house. Because, like, sometimes, like, I would just be like, Mom, like, why are you doing this? And then, you know, she would, like, literally, like, grab my stuff and push me out the door and then call the cops on me. So I felt like that's what, like, my grandma did, and I didn't know. So I was already figuring that I had a warrant or something, that I already violated probation. And Johnny was saying that he might have already, like, violated probation because he thought his mom called the cops on him or something. I don't know. But how we started talking about it was, like, we started out, like, with, you know, what time should we go over to the house? How are we going to do this? You know, like, what, you know, materials do we need to, you know, do this? So, you know, we started talking about that, and then, you know, so we decided to go around, like, midnight or 1:30, because my grandma normally went to sleep around, like, 11:30, 12. So we decided, like, you know, we would park down the road, and then the park was literally, like, right behind my backyard, like, the neighborhood park. So I was able to go through the park and then cut through my backyard because there was a fence. Like, there was the trees, then there was my fence, and then there was the house. So you could easily, like, go through the trees, and then there was the little gate that you could go through. I didn't even think, like, you could even open it.
Yeah, how'd you guys move that cement? Isn't there like a cement block or cinder block or something?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to move. Like, I was able to push the door out a little bit, and then, like, it was stuck, but I was able to maneuver my body over to get in the, you know, into the other side, and then I just moved the cement block over so then Johnny could get through,
Gotcha.
and then I moved it back.
Do you remember what you guys were wearing when you guys did this, or?
I was wearing, like, mostly red. Like, I had, like, red sweatpants, I had a red hoodie on, I had, like, a black, like, a t-shirt that I used as a mask. I think Johnny wore all black, maybe, like, a little bit of color.
Did the hoodie have a design or anything on it, do you remember, or?
I think he had a design on the hoodie.
Yours?
No, well, yeah, on mine, I had something. It wasn't my hoodie, it was Johnny's. because he let me borrow it. It said something on there, so it was like had like white letters, and then I guess he had like this design on his hoodie too.
And you guys said you had T-shirts wrapped around. Did you guys
They were just like, it was like a
rags or
old,
something?
yeah, like an old T-shirt,
What was that for?
just to like cover up our faces.
Excuse me. Do you remember what kind of shoes you were wearing, or no?
I was wearing combat boots. They were like Tims. You know what Tims are?
Yeah,
Were they
Timberlands.
Yeah, they're
like brown or black or
they're brown, like a tannish.
like hiking boots type thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
Do you remember what kind of shoes he wore, or
I forgot.
was he like a skater? Did he skate or something? Skateboard?
He was wearing some skater shoes or something. They might have been like Vans or
What color were they? You remember?
I don't remember.
Y'all were living out of his car. Did he have like a lot of clothes in his car that he would change into?
Yeah,
Okay.
he already had clothes in his car.
Okay. But did he have like different shoes, or did he kind of just keep one pair of shoes on?
He had different shoes. He had
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff in his car.
Okay.
It's kind of like Mary Poppins.
Okay.
That's a good frame of
You got some good
reference.
analogies. I like
Yeah.
that. So when you guys made it to the back door or the back gate,
Mhm.
what'd you guys do next? How'd you move up to the house?
Well, we went up the stairs,
The decking stairs?
yeah,
Okay.
the back deck, and my grandma was still up because we got there a little bit early. So we went back down and we were kind of just chilling over where,
The shed is?
yeah, we were just chilling by the shed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw that the lights turned out, and then we just like stayed outside for a little bit longer just to, wait. And then I already had the keys to my house because I already had a set of keys, so I was able to unlock the back door. And then that just made everything easier.
And as back door, do you mean the bottom back door? Or so you're still talking about that door on the steps?
Yeah, like
Okay.
when you go up the back, on the back deck, there's two doors.
Mhm.
There's a door on the left and a door on the right, and I went to the door on the right because the door on the left had a sensor on it.
Hmm.
Like one of those, like,
Beep beep or whatever?
yeah,
Okay.
like the door 4 open, something
I
like
gotcha.
that.
One of the ones that kind of like announces each door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the one you guys went into didn't have it.
Yeah, I was able to take that one out because like it was like a really old like alarm system. Like they had this alarm system for years, and all you had to do was just like you had to push this little button just to open it, and then just take the battery out. And I already took the battery out like a while ago,
What was that for? You taking the battery out?
just to
then?
like sneak out.
Okay.
And plus, I hated that thing that went off every time. It got so
Yeah,
annoying.
I bet.
So then you guys are at that back door now. You're the first one to kind of walk inside there, or how do you? Okay.
So there was stuff in front of the door because my grandma normally would block off the back door. So, but I was able to open, so I unlocked the back door. I was able to open the back door a little bit and not have the stuff in front of the door fall and, make a noise. So I was able to like maneuver in, and then I moved the stuff in front of the door, and then I got Johnny in. And then we closed the door and locked it.
And then would you guys kind of just hang out downstairs, or did you start moving upstairs? Or?
We went upstairs. We didn't immediately go upstairs. Like we went to the stairs, and then we were like just listening, just hearing what was going on, and we thought everything was good. And then we went upstairs, and
Hold on. Did you guys have anything in your hands, or you just?
Yeah. I had what's it called? It's one of those car tool
Is it to
things.
do a tire, or
Yeah,
is it to
tire
fix
iron.
it?
It was a
Okay.
tire iron. So I had one of those.
Where'd you get that at?
Johnny's car. 'Cause he
Okay.
had one in his car.
His Honda
Mhm.
or whatever.
And Johnny just used his fist, and he brought a black book bag that had duct tape in it, and it had the tire iron in it,
Huh.
and it had gloves in it, because we were also wearing gloves too.
What kind of gloves?
They were like
Hospital gloves or
like-
regular?
hospital
Oh, okay.
gloves.
What color were they? You remember?
Blue-ish?
Okay.
Yeah, they were blue.
Okay.
So,
So now you guys are at the stairs, starting to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
You actually had the tire iron in your hand, or is it still in the book bag?
I had the tire iron in my hand. You know, we got it out before we went inside the house. So I had it in my hand. And Johnny didn't have any weapon. He just used his fist.
Okay.
So,
Kind of following you, or?
yeah.
Okay.
I go up the stairs. He goes into my grandpa's room, and then I go into my grandma's room. And, yeah.
And then do you hear kind of what's going on over there, and
Yeah.
does that kind of cue you off to with your grandmother there?
Yeah, he started going at it, and then, you know, I could hear my grandpa just yelling, you know, them fighting, and then I started getting the rush, and then, you know, like, that's when I started hitting my grandma in the head.
So you took the tire iron, is it just...
I started just beating her head with it.
Does she have a pillow over her head, do you know? Or
No.
would she have a pillow around her head or something? Because...
Mm-mm.
Okay.
The way she was laying was she was on her stomach, and her head was facing to the right. If you go into the bedroom, you look at the bed, so her head was facing like the opposite direction, so she couldn't see me coming through the door.
Okay.
So, and then he started, you know, beating my grandpa, and then after a little bit, I like hit her really hard on the back of the head, and then she started like screaming and stuff. And
Was that the first hit?
Yeah,
The back of the head?
yeah. That's where I mainly hit her in the head. She
So-
bit me.
I think I took a picture of that yesterday, right?
Yeah, she bit me in my finger too, but I forgot which finger. It was on my right hand. I think it was either like my middle finger or it was that one.
And when you and your grandmother used to get into it, that's kind of how did she bite you before to
Yeah.
kind of get you off her or whatnot?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
bitten me before.
Well, she's bitten you before too.
Yeah, I haven't bitten her, but she's bitten me before.
Okay.
Have you, like when you guys are in it, or did you just
Yeah.
come up and bite you?
No, like when we were in it.
Okay.
Like I had this mark on my hand from where she bit me for a while.
Where did she bite you that night? On your finger?
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
On my arm,
Okay.
where they took the picture of it, and then that was it.
So you're in the bedroom with your grandmother. When do you meet back up with Johnny? Do you leave your grandmother there, or kind of what happens?
So I started hitting my grandma, and I already had duct tape, and then, you know, Johnny's doing his thing, and, you know, I stopped hearing Johnny doing whatever, and so he comes in the room with me and my grandma, and, you know, he helps me, like, tie up my grandma with the duct tape, and
And how did you do that? Is it just her hands, or?
I got her hands, I got her whole head, and then I got her ankles.
Okay, with her hands, I guess.
It was behind her back.
So it's like just like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, what about anything on her head or neck, or did you?
Yeah, we kind of like wrapped the duct tape around her head, ish. So, and then that was it.
What was that for? Just.
Just so then she kept it on.
Oh, okay.
Or just cause.
And you said her ankles too?
Mhm.
Okay. And Johnny helped you tie her up?
Yeah, I mean I mostly did it, but I needed like a little bit of help because, you know, she was like, you know, moving around and stuff, and then so he helped me a little bit, and then he went back into my grandpa's room, and then
Where were you doing when you went back in your grandpa's room?
I was still with my grandma, and then
In her room?
yeah, and then I dragged her into my grandpa's room, and Johnny asked me to go get some knives. So I got some knives from downstairs in the kitchen, and I got 3 like, big butcher knives. And then that's when he started like stabbing my grandpa, because then I went back upstairs because I dragged my grandma into my grandpa's room, so they were both in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked her for the code to her safe, because I already knew that she had a safe in her closet. I just didn't know it was in the safe.
Mm.
So, I mean,
Did she tell you?
yeah, I mean, like, she kept saying, like, I'll give you money, I'll give you my keys, you know, I'll give you anything you want. But, yeah, she just kept
Was
saying,
she able to talk with the duct tape around her face?
yeah, like, she was, like, mumbling. You could still understand her, but, like, at the same time, you couldn't.
Like it wasn't like her mouth was shut. Like
Yeah.
almost as if
It was like that.
Okay. Almost as if like she could still move her mouth enough
Yeah.
to make the words be on the tape. Okay.
hmm
And then when Johnny's stabbing your grandfather, is it mainly in the torso or? Okay.
Yeah, he just, I don't know why he did that, but he just kept going.
How many times? More than two? More
Yeah,
five?
more than 5.
Okay.
It was more than 5.
And then what happened when he was done with that? What were you doing? What were you guys doing next?
So we left my grandma sitting there on the floor, and then I got the code to the safe. So Johnny's watching my grandpa and my grandma, and I'm over.
How'd you get that code? Did she tell you
Yeah.
guys or?
She told us.
Okay.
So she told us the code, and I went in the closet because that's where they kept the safe. So I go in there, I'm checking out all the stuff, and I grab the book bag, and I just start stuffing the book bag with everything, Like, there was envelopes just filled with money. There was probably about, like, $1,000 that we found in that safe that they were just saving. And,
Did you know about that money or you just said no?
well, my grandma, it was kind of weird. Like, she was kind of giving me, like, an idea about it before. Like, she was saying, what if I just gave you $1,000? Would that just make the world a better place? I'm just like, no, I don't want $1,000, So, she kept saying that, and then, like, when I saw it, I was just like, wow, she actually had $1,000 in her safe. Like, that's crazy.
So you guys put that stuff in a bag and then basically Johnny's in your grandpa's room with your grandpa and your grandma in the room. Do you come back in there and say, hey, I got this stuff or what? Okay.
Yeah, I go back into the room and I tell him that I got the stuff. And so after that, he slits my grandpa's throat. And then we drag my grandma into the bathroom. And
What was the reason for that? Just to bring her to the bathroom?
yeah, I don't know why we brought her back into the bathroom. I guess we didn't want to bring her into the bedroom.
Okay.
So we just brought her into the bathroom. And then Johnny slit her throat too.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually hit her in the back of the head with the tire iron. Well, not the back of the head, but like right where your spine is. Because he was telling me, he was like, if you hit right there, like just one like good hit, you can just knock the person out and then they'll be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like pretending to be dead for a while. Like I would, check up on her and I would see that she was still breathing. And I'll be like, Johnny, she's still alive. What the heck? And then like Johnny finally like made the like last blow, and it was kind of creepy because she was like scared to die. Like she shitted herself and peed herself.
How did she?
It was kind of gross. That was really.
So you said the last blow though
was just like the last hit, like that.
last hit with the tire iron.
Mhm.
And who did that? You were Johnny.
Johnny.
Had her throat already been slit?
And then after he like did that, then he slit her.
That last part is just sickening. Cassie said that at one point during the end of the attack, Wendy pretended to be dead in the bathroom. And according to Cassie, Wendy was so afraid in her final moments that she soiled herself. And she called it, quote, creepy and gross. It is absolutely shocking how nonchalant Cassie was when she was talking about murdering her own grandparents. Cassie went on to discuss how they planned to murder Johnny's family too, and the rest of her family before then fleeing to Florida. But because of how poorly it went when they tried to murder Mindy and Kevin, they apparently decided to cancel the plan. Cassie was then asked if she felt bad about what she did.
How are you feeling right now? I'm not in your shoes,
With my grandparents?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel terrible. I mean, I feel like the worst person on the planet, but at the same time, it was kind of just like, I don't know. I mean, I feel heartbroken, but I don't know. It's really weird. Like, I'm really sad about it, and that's like one of the reasons why like I wanted to, kill myself, like, and just overdose, because like there was so much stuff going on between me and my grandparents already. Like I couldn't handle it anymore,
Like you said with his follow-up question though, I mean, did they deserve it? Did Grandma deserve it? Did Grandpa deserve it? Or Was it kind of just more getting away from your own family?
It was more kind of just getting away.
Okay. So you don't think that Grandma did anything?
I mean, I was pretty pissed at her for, the couple times that, like, she would call the cops on me for, no reason sometimes, or like, just like a lot of the stuff that she would say would be really offensive because it would be about my mom.
Who did you have because your grandparents are essentially your parents at this point.
Yeah.
And they've been taking care of you for how many years, and you live with them. It's a day-to-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who did you have a more contentious relationship with? Who was the one you were butting heads with all the time?
My grandma.
Your grandma more so than your grandpa?
Yeah, I couldn't talk to my grandpa.
The detectives were also trying to get Cassie to admit to throwing parties at her grandparents' house after she murdered them. The police had proof that she had people over and had invited a lot more, but Cassie was denying it left and right. She said she never had anybody over after the murders. Then she was shown a video that was taken around that time, and the video was taken in what was believed to have been Wendy and Randall's living room, but she claimed that she didn't remember it. Now here's the video that she claimed she didn't remember, as she continued to say that she didn't have anybody over.
People have to say about you, like, I don't listen to people, like, I love you.
Now this was strange, because up until that point, Cassie was being blatantly honest, as if she had nothing to hide. But then, all of a sudden, she felt the need to lie about throwing parties. She even began crying at one point when she was alone in the room after being questioned about having people over.
As you know, I'm a cool dude. So is she, okay? I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, okay? I'm a no bullshitter. I don't know what those DA investigators, I don't know what type of, how many times they talked to you or that. We're different in that aspect, okay? I'm cool as shit with you if you're cool as shit with me. But once lying and stuff like that starts, I have a problem. I believe that there were people at that house, okay?
If it was probably only sunshine.
I mean, I just want no if or anything like that. Unfortunately, you're in this, okay? There's no, there's no saving face right now,
So a lot of this was on the news, okay, as you can imagine, okay? So he's been getting phone calls about you inviting people over to your house, okay? So who was there?
The only person who I can think of would be Sunshine and her boyfriend,
Okay, so
And then
Sunshine has a boyfriend. What's Sunshine's boyfriend's name?
Alex
Alex.
Peterson.
Alex Pearson?
Peterson, yeah.
Peterson. White dude, black dude?
White,
How old is he?
20,
Where's he stay at?
like right down the road from me.
Golf receiver?
Yeah.
Now, again, you're saying you think they showed up. I mean, you have to, is that video from during that time frame, do you know?
It might have been, I don't know.
So, I mean, you remember pretty good details. I don't see how you
Listen,
forget
I
this.
just,
Is your grandma gonna let, real talk, is your grandma gonna let Johnny, Alex, and Sunshine over at her house?
No, they didn't even, she didn't even know about them. I
Okay.
mean, she knew about Johnny, but she didn't know about...
So for all these people to be inside your house, we're gonna both have to assume that it was after you guys killed your grandparents.
I'll be straight up, dude. We heard about a conversation that took place inside there where someone was bitching about the smell. And Johnny's like, no, dude, it's just sewage. There's a sewage problem upstairs. Is this not?
That never came up.
Now, that could be rumors. You know how when kids talk, rumors.
That never was a conversation that came up. The only people who came over to the house was Sunshine and Alex.
So they did come over to the house after you killed your grandparents?
Yeah, I mean, all of it was like one big rush. I don't remember what day they came over, but
I'm not asking for a day. I'm just asking for in 7 days after you guys killed your grandparents and before you went to go attack Johnny's family.
yeah,
Sunshine and Alex were at your house.
yes,
What did you guys do?
we just smoked some weed.
Okay. Did you order food?
No,
I mean, I've seen videos and things like that, and I pretty much knew somebody was in that house Why would you protect them and not tell me about it?
Let me ask you a question. You killed Grandma and Grandpa with Johnny. Johnny, you said, glues and what we know to be cocks the doors. Was that immediately after, or was that before people came over?
That was before people came over.
Okay, so-
I even poured bleach on them before he
You
did
poured
that to
bleach
the
on
door.
Grandma and Grandpa,
Yeah,
and you left one of the bleach bottles in the bathroom next to Grandma.
yeah.
Why did you pour bleach on them?
Johnny told me to.
For the smell? Okay. So, when did you pour the bleach on them?
It was like a couple days after. Like, it was like before we left the house to go chill with some friends. Like, we did it before anyone came over to the house.
Okay. So, you kill Grandma and Grandpa, you basically grab all your shit and put it downstairs. Did that happen the same day?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, you're chilling downstairs with Johnny. You end up, we're like, fuck it, let's have some people over. Johnny tells you to pour bleach on them.
Yeah.
You pour bleach on them.
Yeah.
Where did you put Grandpa's bleach bottle?
Well, he used the same bleach bottle.
Okay. So you bleach Grandpa first,
Yeah.
then you bleach Grandma, and then you throw the bottle in the trash can. In the bathroom.
I don't remember saying that.
It's like, alright, it's more like a Windex bottle than it is like a tub of bleach. Okay. And then Johnny cocks the doors
Yes.
after you bleach them,
Yes.
several days after you kill them.
Yes.
And that was because it smelled and you were having people over.
We weren't intending to have any people over. We only had Sunshine and Alex come over just that one day because we were like, it was only a couple days after, so we thought it was going to be okay. Like, it didn't smell in the house.
Do they know that your grandparents were upstairs?
No,
They have no idea.
they had no idea. I told them that they were on vacation.
Did they go upstairs at all?
No,
How long did they stay there for?
just for like a few hours. They came really late at night.
Who else came over?
It was just Sunshine and
You
Alex.
said we only thought Sunshine and Alex were coming.
It was just them. No one else came to the house.
Okay, let me ask you this then. You literally have showed no emotion towards your grandparents, and I don't have a problem. Like, I don't know the life that you were having, and I guess I can kind of understand that you wanted to sever that part of your life and start over again, okay? But why are you showing emotion with when I brought up Sunshine? What the hell is this chick? You know what I'm saying?
She's just a close friend. She was there most of the time when I was going through the stuff with my parents. So she's really close to me. Not as close as Izzy though. Like,
Did Izzy come over?
Does she know what happened?
no.
Did you tell anyone what happened? Not a person?
No one knew. I told everyone that my grandparents left on vacation.
Why were you even telling people that your grandparents left? To let them come over?
Because my grandma kept texting everyone saying to look out for me.
What do you mean?
To see where I was. Because, after she kicked me out, she started texting all of my friends and everyone saying, look out for Cassie. Tell her to come home. And then I told people I went home. And then I told them that they weren't home. They left a note and the key saying that they were going on vacation for 2 weeks.
Did you text anyone on Grandma's phone?
Yes.
Pretending to be Grandma?
Yes.
Who did you text?
Just Sylvia.
Okay. And who's that to you?
She's a family member in California.
Okay. So you texted Sylvia. What did you say to Sylvia?
She kept asking, is everything okay? Because she just started freaking out, like, that my grandma wasn't texting her. And so I started texting her saying everything's fine.
Where'd you take Grandma's phone from? Was it on her nightstand? Was it
Yeah.
in her purse?
It was on her nightstand.
Okay. Did you take it before or after you hit her with the tire iron?
It was, like, in the middle.
In the middle. So she couldn't call 911?
Yeah. We made sure that they couldn't call 911.
No one else came to the house?
all over the news.
Yep. Yeah. And it was just you and Johnny.
It's just me and John.
And after a few days, you poured bleach on Grandma and Grandpa to mask the smell,
Yeah.
so Sunshine and Alex could come over.
So then they wouldn't find out.
And then you caulked the doors.
Yeah.
You caulked the front door too.
That was all Johnny. I didn't even do that.
Why did Johnny caulk the front door?
I didn't even know he did that to the
He
front
did.
door.
Well, let me ask you this: could you use the front door to your house before?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we never
Did you bring the Amazon packages in, or did Grandma?
I did.
You did. Why did you?
So then it didn't look obvious. And
Okay.
plus people like to steal our stuff.
Okay. Did you bring the mail in at all, or just the Amazon?
Just the packages that were left on the porch.
If we call Cassie, or excuse me, if we call Alex and Sunshine, they gonna tell us you had a party?
No.
There was shit all over that house.
Yeah, we destroyed the house, but we didn't have a party there. We didn't have a party there.
Cassie, Johnny, Sunshine, and Alex, and that's it.
How was it?
And that video's from after, right?
It must have been from Sunshine, because no one else was at the house.
Okay.
I didn't even think she was recording us off her phone.
When she was, you used Snapchat. Why wouldn't she use Snapchat?
I didn't.
She didn't know your grandparents were dead upstairs.
Yeah. I didn't realize she was taking a video of us.
Anything else? It only seems that you're sorry you got caught, that you had people over after. You don't seem to be sorry that you killed your grandparents.
I am.
I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know.
So after all of that, she finally admitted that yes, she did have some people over. She said all they did was hang out and smoke weed. She also said that before they had people over, in order to block the smell of the dead bodies, she poured bleach all over her grandparents' bodies. That's also when Johnny used that caulking material to seal up the rooms. Then they took all of her stuff from her room so she wouldn't have to go upstairs anymore. After her interrogation was complete, Cassie was taken to the county jail, where Johnny was placed as well. Now, the reason that I don't have an interrogation video of Johnny is because he never really said anything to the police regarding a confession or an interview. He stayed pretty quiet during the entire investigation. As the days went on and more evidence was taken in to be examined, authorities spent a lot of time looking through Wendy's phone. Cassie and Johnny had used it quite a bit. There were videos of them having sex, videos of them smoking weed in Wendy and Randall's living room after the murders. I mean, just very casual, nonchalant, and callous videos. Shortly after the arrests, both Cassie and Johnny were denied bond.
All right, Ms. Bjorge, you are charged with 2 felony warrants for murder, 2 felony warrants for aggravated assault. You have no bond on the murder charges. Only a superior court judge can consider you for bond.
Meanwhile, the community was mourning the loss of Wendy and Randall. People paid their respects outside of their home, and the entire community came together. On April 21st, Randall's car had been finished being processed, and a ton of evidence was taken from it. Cassie had told the detectives during her interrogation that she and Johnny disposed of evidence in Randall's car. And boy, oh boy, she wasn't kidding. I mean, there were bloody knives in there, a tire iron that was used on Wendy and Randall, exam gloves, duct tape, and so much more. It seemed that Cassie's mother, Amanda, was also getting some public scrutiny for her daughter's actions in all of this. So much so that she ended up getting an attorney.
Not in a million years did I ever think something like this would ever happen.
Do not, no one, judge my client and the way she mothers by the actions of Cassie.
A few months later, in June 2017, a grand jury indicted both Cassie and Johnny with 2 counts of murder, 6 counts of aggravated assault, aggravated battery and theft, and 1 count of armed robbery. The county district attorney said that when it came to Cassie and Johnny, quote, There doesn't seem to be any remorse in the statements or in the actions. The DA was also possibly considering capital punishment for 19-year-old Johnny, since he was legally an adult when he committed the crimes. 17-year-old Cassie, on the other hand, was still a juvenile. But almost a year later, and both Cassie and Johnny pleaded guilty to all of their charges. And in doing so, that removed the possibility of the death penalty for Johnny. It also took away the possibility of a murder trial for each of them. Instead, they were given a sentencing trial on February 2nd, 2018. I couldn't find a ton of clips from the sentencing trial, but here are a few clips combined with family members and the judge speaking.
I wonder how much vicious cruelty it takes to leave someone to putrefy. Did he die quickly? Did Cassie see his face? Did he see Cassie's face? Someone he loved so much, someone he was so proud of.
It is sad to me that the first time they visit my house and meet my children is in a paper bag from a funeral home.
I just continue to be stunned that you sealed areas so that you could make sure the smell of decaying human flesh wouldn't be noticed, that you had parties and ordered Chinese food with two people that you had brutally murdered lying upstairs.
Both Cassie and Johnny were given the opportunity to speak, but Cassie declined. She did cry a little bit before she was given her sentencing, but overall she lacked emotion. Johnny, on the other hand, did say, quote, "I would like to express my deepest apologies to the family. I'm so sorry for the pain and grief that I have caused all of you. I know that what I have done is evil and deserving of hellfire." Each of them was given 2 life sentences on top of a concurrent sentence of 21 years, with the possibility of parole after 60 years. So, while they might possibly have the chance at freedom one day, they would be close to 80 years old. Currently, Cassie is serving her life sentence in Alto, Georgia, and she appears to be trying to make connections on the outside because she's listed on cagedladies.com. This is a website in an attempt to get people to write to her. She writes that she is stuck in a penitentiary and also that she has a petite body. She also says, "Handwrite me a letter. I promise it will be worth the trip to the post office." Now, I'm not sure if she's looking for a friend or maybe a boyfriend due to her putting her info out there about her body, but I mean, either way, gross. Johnny's also serving his time, but I had a harder time finding any updated information on how things are going for him. Overall, I feel like this is one of the more disturbing cases, since it dealt with a teenage girl brutally attacking her grandparents who did nothing but fight for her and do their absolute best to help her turn her life around. It is absolutely shocking how Cassie showed zero remorse for what she had done. I feel like maybe, just maybe, Johnny might have felt a little bit guilty for his actions. But Cassie? Not even in the slightest. It's a shame that Wendy and Randall were such good people, truly beloved by all that knew them, and their kindness and their dedication to their granddaughter was what ultimately sealed their fate. They should still be alive, enjoying their golden years together in retirement. Instead, that was taken away from them in one brutal and bloody and horrific night in April, and they are no longer here living life and bringing joy to those around them. And I'm so curious, what if Cassie and Johnny hadn't been caught? Would Cassie have gone on to become a serial killer? She lacked any empathy or remorse, and her interviews were beyond chilling to watch. It just makes me think that she was very capable of continuing her killing spree. I mean, she fully planned on killing her own mom and Johnny's entire family, and it truly makes me wonder, and may make you wonder, how someone gets that way at such a young age. The fact that she and Johnny partied while 2 of Cassie's family members were rotting away, sealed in bedrooms upstairs, it is beyond comprehension. Cassie had her whole life ahead of her too, and she threw it all away for what? A couple of days of freedom and $1,000? So that she wouldn't get in trouble for smoking weed, using drugs? None of it makes any sense, and I don't think that a rough childhood and what seemed to be an absentee father warrants an excuse for Cassie's behavior. But I am curious if you guys are happy with the sentencing for both Cassie and Johnny. And do you think that they would have gone on to be Bonnie and Clyde, serial killers together? Let me know in the comments below. Until the next one, stay safe.